Welcome to Unite webinar number 7, everyone. My name is Jim, and I'm on the interim youth ministry team and get the privilege of hosting these Unite webinars. And we've got Eric Anderson with us from Covenant Events, and Jordan, his cohort in crime, is in the chat, as well as some of our other interim youth ministry team members. So we're going to do our best to answer questions and give you the most up-to-date information that we have today. So if you have questions along the way, we just know that we will do Q&A at the end. So we will go ahead and kind of move through the information. So write down your questions, and then at the end, we'll give you a chance to throw those into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those. And then Eric, we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you take it away. If we could, what I've got on my list is if we could start with airport transportation.
Yep.
I think you've got an update for us on what that looks like. And I think what you mean by that is getting from the airport to the campuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So
Great.
after this webinar, we have an email that's going to go out to all of our youth pastors and churches that kind of outlines, one, we've created a registration form for Unite East that has sort of like for you to go ahead and like let us know how many students, your airline times, so we can organize that sort of transportation costs, the whole 9 yards. So that will be in the email that right after this webinar, you'll be receiving for Unite East. So that's really helpful. We're really excited. We have the whole form built out so that you can go ahead and let us know like what that looks like for you and your group as you're planning when it comes to your travels to Unite East. Because we get it. Like it's still, I mean, it seems far away, but it's really not that far away. So handling these details now is like super helpful. So you have all the right information when it comes to your strategizing and planning for your group to be at Unite East. So, and also as a reminder, we will have some people and like individuals at the airport in communication prior to make sure you know where you need to go. So when you get off the plane, you're not like, where am I heading now? What's happening? Like we want to make sure that kind of wayfinding, that hospitality will be there for you and your group. So, and then also we have a little bit of a document created for those who are going to Unite West, like best practices for how do I get from the airport to the university, because you can take public transit and it is very helpful and very affordable. So that will also, so you don't need to register for transportation for Unite West when it comes to that part of the document and email, but we will offer you and send you some best practices as we get closer to Unite West and the date for the event, and like kind of help you navigate, okay, what bus do I take, what line, and how do I make sure I know where I'm going? So we have those details curated for you, and our wonderful ministry partner, CIY, actually did the trip. And actually, Jim, you and I are going to do this in a few weeks here. We're actually going to test it out and make sure we get kind of all the kinks worked out and make sure everyone feels like they're really set up well when it comes to arriving at both sites.
Exactly. And actually, you don't even have to wait for the email. If you're watching this live, Eric Cave just dropped the link in the chat to that Unite East transportation. So if you're going to Unite East, go ahead and you can find that in the chat right now if you want to check it out.
So I'll say one more word, Jim, that's helpful when it comes to people are wondering like how do I pay or how do I like reserve when it comes to transport for Unite East, like from the airport to the university. All that we're asking right now is $100 deposit per group, so that we're able to make sure we can communicate with our transportation companies, sort of a ballpark of what we're looking at for reservations. And that way we can make sure that you can also pay at a later date, the final bill. But the first thing, if you want to reserve your group, let us know how many students and leaders and the total group size, and just a simple $100 deposit to reserve your spot when it comes to your transportation at Unite East this summer.
Awesome. Okay. So, so if I want to, I could sign my group up and pay the full amount if I want to, or I could just pay the $100 deposit and keep fundraising and pay the balance.
Great question, Jim. I think I would recommend just paying the deposit now.
Okay.
Like we get a little bit closer, but that really reserves sort of your group spot and when it comes to transportation. But I don't think you need to pay the full price quite yet.
Okay. So, and I'm just curious, are you doing segways, hang gliders, buses?
A lot of Lime scooters, man. It's like a lot of like, Dumb and Dumber scooters all the way from Detroit all the way to Bowling Green.
I love it. All right. Sounds good. Cool. You heard it here, folks.
I will say to everyone watching here live and those that will watch, the recording later, if you do have other like further questions or inquiries about what does transportation look like to the university, don't hesitate to ask. We have a great team that's ready to respond and help navigate sort of your details. Or if you have more questions about it right now, you throw it in the chat because we have our team is ready to help you respond and get some clarity if something still feels a little bit vague.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay. I'm ready to move on to the next thing if you are.
Actually, Scott just asked a question. If we drive, will there be parking close to the dorms at Bowling Green University? That's a great question, Scott. Actually, we have a whole role and volunteer opportunity, which you'll hear about more later, about how to help you arrive well. And as you are kind of traveling and getting ready to arrive at the event, we will send you maps and where you're, where to park, what does registration and check-in look like. So yes, there will be parking available. And then as we get a little bit closer, we will send you the details on where to park and when it comes to the campuses.
Maybe we should answer that if you know for Unite West. You know yet? What that
Yeah, no, same for Unite West. Yep, same deal.
Great. Cool. Sounds good. Okay. The next thing on our list is talking about extended housing, which is if your group wants to come a day early, spend a night on the front end, or stay an extra night at the back end. Maybe you want to do both. What do we know about that? What's the update there?
Great information coming your way to this update. So we've also created another registration link for both Unite East and Unite West for early arrival and late departure. So you can go ahead when that email, the content's there in the chat, but that'll help you kind of navigate and register your group, your leaders, your students when it comes to the details of if you are pursuing early arrival or late departure and kind of the details and payment information. And again, this is separate from the CIY event Unite registration. This is simply towards when it comes to additional housing. And a couple of details there I want to make sure everyone's aware of. You're kind of wondering, hey, when is check-in? When's check-out? If I'm coming in early or leaving or departing late. So check-in, if you're coming in a day early, I would say you can assume it's right around 3 p.m. the previous day. And so kind of thinking to yourself a hotel sort of policy and schedule, because the university's got to get rooms ready and whatnot for the early arrivals. And then for the late departures, the following day is 10 a.m.
Okay.
10 a.m. Yep. So if you're planning your flights or driving, hey, I have a flight out at 9 or later, just keep in mind when it comes to your schedule and your group details, that 10 a.m. kind of saying hey, that's when we need to be out of the dorms and checked out.
That's perfect. Yeah, great. I'm glad we have that info. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Help us plan. And just FYI, Eric also just dropped in the Eric Cave just dropped in the chat the link to that extended housing.
That guy. I mean, he's on it.
Yep. And if you hear the dinging, that's the alert on my end, at least, that in the Unite space in coveyouth.com under the resource tab, Eric is posting those there as well. So you can find them there later, especially if you're not watching the live version of this. You can find the documents that we're referencing in the chat. You can find them over in the Unite space under the resources tab there. So just know that that's where that's at for you right now, literally.
And Jim, we also have some of these resources and conversations and information on our covchurch.org website as well. So we're trying to make sure we have this covered on multiple platforms for your church pastors or even parents who might just be a little bit curious and might do some snooping around themselves. So we want to make sure we have enough information for your group, your context, your church and parents and families.
Sweet. It's covechurch.org/unite.
Unite. Yep.
Everybody wants that. Yep. Cool. Yep. Sounds good. Awesome. All right. The next item on our agenda is talking about programming volunteers. Yeah. And so I think this is what in the past we've referred to as staff.
Yeah,
and so we're changing the language a little bit. So this would be if you've got anybody really that wants to come, you've got extra leaders that just want to be there and serve and help. This is them plugging in. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And that is people yes, those individuals and those people who are you know what, I love this event. I'm not serving youth ministry, but I have a skill set and I have availability to come and support. But what we know about both sides of this event over the years is that it takes a lot of people to say, yep, I'm in. To pull something off when it comes to all these elements. And so we created a volunteer form that is going to be I can almost guarantee Eric Cave's going to put it in the chat here, where it's a Google form that they can kind of self-select and kind of fill out some information of where their area of interest is or passion. And then we will follow up with a little bit of a reference and make sure both Unite executive teams have that information and go ahead and start sort of plugging them in as needed, right? So, and even though there's those individuals, Jim, but you know what's interesting, Jim? Some of the people that are stepping forward to volunteer are people that were impacted by Chick in years past. Like they were a student of the Covenant Church and they went to Chick and had their life change, and now they're a doctor or a counselor, or they are a bouncer at a nightclub and they want to work security. I'm just teasing about that. But we have people in our midst, and maybe you know them. If people on this webinar, those that have been just deep. This event means deeply to them. Like this is also a great way to have them still connected to the legacy of what they experienced and to help pass it on to the next generation. So we have those roles, not only the Google form, but also a description document. So people say, hey, what does a volunteer, what does it mean to volunteer for recreation in the afternoon? Or what does it mean to help a check in and check out? So there's little job descriptions there on that document. And if you need more clarity, or, hey, when do I need to arrive if I volunteer for this, or if I recommend someone to volunteer for us, let us know and we can help them communicate those details and connect with them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now because Eric did post it in the chat, and it's also live at Unite, of the Unite space here at coveyouth.com. And so, Eric, just to clarify, is this something where so I'm bringing a group, I've got a leader that's told me, hey, I'd like to help. I know you don't need me as a counselor or for the group, but I'd love to be a part of it. So is this something where I would go in, kind of sign them up a little bit to be contacted, or would it be better for you all if I sent them the link so that they can fill it out, or does it matter?
Yeah, I think it does matter. So I would have them, if that in that scenario or situation, I would have you send him, that individual, the Google form to fill out. So then we can, because it kind of is a different registration process for volunteers who aren't coming to serve as a leader with a group.
Okay.
That we have all set up already on our end. So yeah, send in the Google form, then we'll connect with them and then kind of start taking those next steps in the process to get in them, hopefully to serve at Unite this summer. So that would be the sequence I would go with.
Okay. So we can forward this link on and let those things.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay.
It's going to go out in a broader communication throughout the denomination as well. So we're kind of casting the net, because I think a lot of people in a lot of churches and a lot of communities really believe in this event. We want to make sure that they have an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I'm in. I want to help serve. And I want to help, invest in this next generation.
Yeah. And I would say, just to encourage y'all watching, that there is a legit need here. This isn't like we're just throwing it out because it's something we've always done. No, there are legit needs where we do need people to support the event. And so so any help that they can provide, or the folks that that can provide, please encourage them to sign up. So
and it's kind of like for your church on the weekends, Jim. You need volunteers. You need people to say, hey, I'll work in kids ministry. I'll do the cafe or greeting. Like this is the same kind of ministry philosophy. We want to plug people in the right space for their gift set, but the truth is we need people and we need volunteers, and it's worth it. Like it's absolutely worth your time.
100%. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. All right. So that actually brings us to the Q&A portion of our agenda for today. So I want to give you a second to drop some questions in. While you're doing that, though, I want to take just a moment to remind you of two key documents that are posted in the Unite space under the resource tab. And that is the leader prep document, which is super critical for you as a youth worker to go over with your adult team. Make sure you go through all of that content. And included in that is the information on the background check stuff. And that is critical for you as well. And for those going to Unite West, doing the fingerprinting and whatnot, all of those things are super critical. So be sure, if you haven't yet, be sure to check that information out. And then also there's a registration PDF. So if you have not yet actually registered your group, there's a screenshot by screenshot kind of guide that's posted there on that process. So be sure to check it out. Yep. So
one more resource available. Just let everyone know, we had a couple of requests come through that people were like, hey, can I get some Unite site specific promotional resources? So like just for Unite West and Unite East. And those are all uploaded to our covchurch.org/Unite landing page. So you can go ahead there. It's under the promotional resources and you can download all of those there. So if your church is like, wait, is it Unite East or Unite West, or where's my student going, or what am I signing up for? We have all that load it up there. And we can also probably find a way to link it to cubyouth.com.
Nice. Right on. Okay. And I am dropping into the chat just in case you all need it, the 2 documents that I just referred to. So there you go. Okay. We've got a couple questions in the chat, Eric. The first from Kristen. It looks like Eric Cave may have replied, but I keep getting messages from the Unite registration to say I didn't pay the second payment for 2 youth. I had tried to cancel those 2 youth by emailing where it is said to email, yet I have received these 3 emails saying we haven't paid the second amount. What do I do?
Yep.
Eric, yeah, Cave said
actually
email
and I'm actually going to put an email contact in the chat here. We have an incredible ministry partner. Chelsea Jones from CIY is a genius, and she is so gifted when it comes to not only ministry but also everything CIY and Unite, and when it comes to these details. So I'm going to put her email right there, and if you contact Chelsea, she will help you navigate. Hey, what do those details look like, and how can we kind of get that resolved?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, the next would be from Tanya.
Okay.
She says, when I tried to get the promo materials, it wouldn't load the page.
Huh.
Is it live? Maybe it's not.
Could be so, Tanya, I will actually, right after this meeting, go ahead and go and check out my Marcom team to see if there's a hiccup there, and we will post those materials in Cub Youth immediately after this.
Sweet. Sounds good.
Sorry about that.
There we go. And then, and actually, Chelsea's on this call if you have registration questions. So she's in the chat. So right now, she's already interacting there.
Awesome.
If you have questions, she'll try and we can bring her into this if we need to as a speaker. So let's see. Ruby is texting from a stoplight, but she's while driving. She found hidden gems in her congregants to come to serve at Unite. So think outside the box. So there you go. And then Devin is asking about the bathing suit policy and where do we figure out where we'll be staying for the day of?
Yeah, so bathing suit policies, I kind of leave in the hands of the youth leader and kind of what you sort of have in place for other camps you go to, whether it's mission trips or summer camps. We kind of let that be towards your discernment, but we always say modest is best. So when it comes to sort of that sort of clothing policy, when it comes to knowing what dorm you're going to be in and what that looks like, that'll be closer, but to the event. So we're going to get, we're doing site visits here, and we're going to do housing sort of assignments. So as we get a little bit closer, you'll know exactly what dorm you're in and what it looks like to check in when you arrive on site for both Unite East and West. Okay.
So we'll know before we arrive what dorm to go to.
Yeah, we will let you know what the steps look like. So if you remember, at previous chicks, we would sort of know what dorm or area we would be in, and we could always go check in, hand our paperwork in, and then get kind of pointed in the right direction. And so it'll probably something similar, but we will have a pretty clear idea of what it looks like to be for your residents and housing for Unite.
Cool. Yep. Great. Okay. All right. It looks like that folks are having a great conversation in the chat without us. I love it. That's great. Right? Yeah. They're just interacting about the page and whatnot. So
this has nothing to do with Unite. Oh, any update on scholarships? Adam, absolutely. So we are going to be sending communication out here shortly in the next few weeks about what that process looks like. In fact, myself, the interim youth team, and some people from Making Deep and Disciples are actually having a conversation in an hour to make sure that we have the language right and we can figure out the best way to disseminate that information to everyone for churches, families, and students. So great question. We are really getting excited about what that process looks like, and you'll have that information here shortly.
Yep. Sweet. All right. Any update on scholarships? Yeah, I think that's the last question there. If there's any other questions for us, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And Eric, you had a thought. You said it was something.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't relate to this at all, but since Ruby's at a stoplight, how long or how much of your life do you think you spend at a stoplight?
Ooh.
In reality, the average amount of time people spend at a stoplight, what do you think it is?
In a lifetime?
Yep.
36 hours total.
Okay.
In a lifetime.
It's a little more than that.
Was it? Wow. Like 300?
If people in the chat want to take a guess, I know Jordan does know this one. our staff meeting 1 zillion hours because you live. Yeah, Eric. Maybe you're just a slow driver, Eric Cave. I don't know.
Eric just parks at stoplights, I guess.
It's 6 months.
6 months?
Months.
Wow.
You'll spend at a stoplight. That's wild, right?
No kidding. Yeah. Wow.
Insane. I mean, probably our rural communities have like the roundabouts or no stoplights at all. But I thought that's like, man, how do you redeem that time? Come on now.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Then I think, like, how can I be efficient with that 6 months of my life? Right. Right on. Sounds good. Eric, I don't stop. It's funny. Cool. All right. Well, hey, Eric, I appreciate this info. This is super helpful. And yes, just as was mentioned, we're doing site visits and whatnot to the campuses just to get the lay of the land, and we'll be able to give out even more information, more detail type information after those visits coming up in a month or so. So anyway, so yeah, we're excited about that and whatnot. So
yeah,
I think that's about it. I'm not seeing questions come in. So a couple quick heads up on a few things that are happening soon. Our next Unite webinar will be April 11th at the same time as this one. So Thursday, April 11th, if you want to mark your calendars for that. And then we also have our next Cov Youth 101 webinar coming up. And the theme this month in covyouth.com is parents as allies in your ministry. And that's the focus of this webinar is literally how do you engage with parents? They can be your worst enemy or they can be your best friend. And so how can you truly partner with and engage with parents in your youth ministry? And then that's it actually. I'll post a link to that if anybody wants to go ahead, and you can go over to this link and you can RSVP even now. And that way you should get notifications if you have them on, but this way you should for sure get notifications when those things go live if you have the RSVP. So
the bell ping, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's great. So anyway, seeing no other questions in the chat, I think that will wrap up our time. So thank you so much, y'all, for jumping in. Hopefully this information's been helpful. And be sure to hit those links and find those resources over at the Unite space here at covyouth.com and in the resource tab. And as mentioned, feel free to reach out if you have questions.
I just want to say that you have no idea how much we're grateful for you and we're praying for you. We're praying for your students. We're praying for the impact of summer. Thank you for your time and your investment. It's not lost on us at all. And we can't wait to see how God's going to move.
Yeah, amen to that. It's going to be awesome. So cool. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. We'll see you soon.
Bye, y'all.